Most riders don't quit riding because they lose interest. They quit because the bike starts taking more out of them than it gives back. It happens slowly. A heavier feel at low speed. More effort in tight turns. A ride that once cleared your head now wears you out halfway through. That's not age, that's the wrong machine. And once you fix that, everything changes. Today, we're breaking down 12 motorcycles that make riding easier without going soft. Low seat, real balance, usable power. Stay till the end, because the last one might completely change what you think you need in your garage. Number 12. Kawasaki Vulcan S. There comes a point where wrestling a motorcycle stops feeling like pride and starts feeling like work. That is where this machine quietly earns its place. It does not try to impress with size or noise. Instead, it focuses on something many riders begin to value more with time fit. The moment you settle into the seat, it feels less like climbing onto a bike and more like sliding into position. What makes it stand out is how adaptable it feels, without drawing attention to it. The riding triangle can be dialed in to match your reach and leg position, which takes strain off joints that no longer forgive poor ergonomics. Slow speed balance feels natural, not forced, and that matters in parking lots, gas stations, and uneven ground where confidence can slip. Out on the road, it stays composed without feeling heavy, giving you control without demanding effort. Power delivery stays smooth and predictable. There are no sudden surges, no surprises, just a steady pull that lets you focus on the ride instead of managing the engine. It may not deliver the deep torque of larger cruisers, but it earns respect in a different way. It keeps you riding longer because it asks less from your body. Over time, that becomes its real strength. You stop thinking about discomfort and start paying attention to the road again. It is not about proving anything. It is about continuing to ride on your terms. The Vulcan S runs a 649 cubic centimeter parallel twin, making about 61 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 27.8 inches, curb weight is about 498 pounds, and the suspension uses a telescopic fork with a preload, adjustable lay-down rear shock. Further up the road, another machine begins to answer the need for something stronger, without giving up that same sense of control. Number 11. Honda Rebel 500. Confidence does not come back all at once. It returns in small moments. Feet planted firmly at a stop, a smooth takeoff without hesitation, a turn that feels controlled instead of forced. That is where this machine earns its place. It does not try to overwhelm you with power or weight. Instead, it strips riding down to something manageable again. The low stance makes the first difference you notice. Swinging a leg over feels easy, and once seated, everything is within reach. There is no stretch, no awkward lean, just a natural posture that lets your body relax. That becomes important on longer rides, where tension builds quietly over time. Here, it does not build as quickly. Out on the road, the handling feels light without being nervous. It moves through traffic and tight spaces with little effort, and that simplicity restores trust. The engine delivers power in a steady, predictable way. It does not surge or surprise, which allows you to focus on the ride instead of managing the machine. For many riders, that is exactly what brings them back. It will not satisfy someone chasing heavy torque or long highway dominance. That is not its purpose. What it offers is control, and control leads to confidence. Once that confidence returns, the ride starts to feel familiar again, like something you have known for years. Over time, that familiarity turns into comfort, and comfort turns into consistency. You ride more often, not because you have to prove anything, but because it feels right again. Honda's Rebel 500 uses a 471 cubic centimeter parallel twin, with roughly 46 horsepower and about 32 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 27.2 inches, curb weight is around 414 pounds in ABS trim, and the chassis uses a telescopic fork with twin rear shocks. Sooner or later, that regained confidence begins asking for more strength beneath it. If this is already hitting close to home, take a second to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And share your own experience below, because real riders know which bikes actually make the miles easier over time. Number 10. Suzuki Boulevard C50. There is a moment when lighter bikes start to feel a little too light. The road pushes back harder than it used to, and you begin to notice how much a machine moves beneath you. That is where something with more weight and presence starts to make sense. It is not about speed, it is about feeling planted. The first thing you notice is how steady it feels at low speeds. The balance comes naturally, and that matters when maneuvering through parking lots or easing into tight turns. It does not feel nervous or twitchy. Instead, it settles into the road, giving you a sense of control that builds confidence with every mile. Out on the highway, that stability becomes even more valuable. Wind and rough pavement do not throw it offline. It tracks straight and holds its position without constant correction. The riding posture supports your back and hips in a way that reduces fatigue over time. It is not flashy, but it does exactly what it needs to do. The engine delivers power in a calm, consistent way. There is enough torque to move comfortably through traffic and cruise at highway speeds without strain. It does not rush or demand attention. It simply does its job, and that reliability becomes part of the experience. Over time, that steady nature starts to feel right. You stop thinking about the bike and start focusing on the ride itself. That is when it becomes more than just transportation. The Boulevard C50 carries an 805 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin, making about 52 horsepower and 51 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 27.6 inches, curb weight is 611 pounds, and suspension is a telescopic fork with a link-type rear shock. Further ahead, another machine carries that same stability, but adds a stronger sense of control at lower speeds. If you're starting to feel the difference after longer rides, there's a list of gear and comfort-focused accessories in the description, the kind that takes pressure off your body instead of adding to it. Number 9. Kawasaki Vulcan 900. Some machines earn trust the moment you lift them off the stand. Not because they are light, but because the weight sits exactly where it should. That balance makes all the difference when the ground is uneven or the turn is tighter than expected. It removes hesitation before it has a chance to build. The seating position keeps you low without folding you into the bike. Your feet reach forward naturally, and your hands fall into place without strain. Over time, that posture reduces pressure on the lower back and hips, which matters more with every mile. You do not fight the bike to stay comfortable. It works with you instead. At slower speeds, it remains composed and predictable. Parking lots, tight streets, and stop-and-go traffic feel manageable, not stressful. That kind of control is often overlooked until it becomes necessary. Out on the highway, the added weight keeps it planted. Wind and rough pavement do not push it around, and that stability lets you settle into a rhythm without constant correction. The engine delivers its power in a steady, reassuring way. It does not rush or spike. Instead, it builds smoothly, giving you enough torque to move confidently without feeling aggressive. That kind of delivery allows you to focus on the ride itself, rather than managing every input. Over time, that steady nature becomes the reason you keep coming back to it. It does not demand attention. It simply supports the ride mile after mile. Kawasaki's Vulcan 900 uses a 903 cubic centimeter fuel-injected V-twin, producing about 50 horsepower and roughly 58 pound-feet of torque. Seat height sits at 26.8 inches, curb weight is about 620 pounds, and it uses a telescopic fork with unitrack rear suspension. Beyond this point, the feel begins to shift from steady control towards something with a bit more character beneath it. Number 8. Yamaha V-Star 950. There is a certain feeling that newer machines sometimes lose. It is not speed or power. It is the sense that the bike is working with you instead of asking you to adapt. That older, more familiar rhythm shows up clearly here, and it is something many riders recognize the moment they roll forward. The seating position keeps everything simple. You sit low enough to feel grounded, but not cramped. Your arms reach the bars without strain, and your legs fall into place naturally. Over time, that reduces fatigue in a way that becomes noticeable after the first hour, not just the first few minutes. It is a kind of comfort that does not need to be explained, only experienced. At lower speeds, the balance feels steady and predictable. There is no sudden shift or awkward movement. That makes tight maneuvers easier and takes pressure off situations that often cause hesitation. Once the road opens up, it holds its line without wandering, giving you a sense of calm that builds confidence mile after mile. The engine carries a different character than lighter machines. It pulls with a deeper, more deliberate feel, even if the numbers do not stand out on paper. That steady torque makes highway cruising feel relaxed instead of strained, and it keeps the ride consistent without demanding constant input. Over time, that consistency becomes the reason it stays in the garage. It does not try to prove anything. It simply delivers the kind of ride that feels familiar and dependable every time you take it out. The V-Star 950 is powered by a 942 cubic centimeter V-twin with about 52 horsepower and 59 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is a low 26.6 inches. Wet weight is roughly 612 pounds. And the bike uses a telescopic fork with a single rear shock. That familiar feel sets a strong foundation, though the next machine brings a more modern sense of ease into the same equation. Number 7. Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650. Not every rider is chasing speed anymore. There comes a point where the ride itself matters more than how fast it gets done. That shift changes what you look for in a machine, and this one leans into that idea without apology. It does not rush. It settles into a pace that feels natural. The seating position keeps your body relaxed from the start. You sit low enough to feel stable, yet upright enough to avoid pressure building in your lower back. Over longer rides, that balance becomes noticeable. It is the kind of comfort that does not demand attention, but quietly keeps you going. At slower speeds, the bike feels composed and predictable. It does not fight you in tight spaces or low-speed maneuvers. That makes everyday riding easier, especially when the ground is uneven or the turn is tighter than expected. Out on open roads, it holds steady without feeling heavy, giving you confidence without adding strain. The engine delivers power in a smooth, even way. It does not surge or push you forward aggressively. Instead, it builds gradually, giving you control over every movement. That kind of delivery makes long rides less tiring and more enjoyable, especially when you are not trying to prove anything. Over time, that calm nature becomes the reason it stands out. You stop thinking about managing the bike and start focusing on the road ahead. It turns riding into something steady and consistent rather than demanding. Royal Enfield gives the Super Meteor a 648 cubic centimeter parallel twin rated at about 46.4 horsepower and 38.6 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 29.1 inches. Curb weight is about 531 pounds, and it uses upside-down forks, twin shocks, and standard dual-channel ABS. A calmer approach has its place, though the next machine brings a stronger balance between control and power. Number 6. Triumph Bonneville T120. There is a point where too much motorcycle starts working against you. Heavy steering, stretched controls, and unnecessary bulk begin to wear you down long before the ride is over. That is where a more balanced machine starts to make sense. Something that carries strength without forcing you to manage it every second. The riding position keeps everything centered and natural. You are not pushed too far back or leaned too far forward. Your spine stays upright, your arms stay relaxed, and your legs are not locked into a single position. Over distance, that balance reduces fatigue in ways that are easy to overlook until they are gone. It feels like a bike built around the rider, not the other way around. At lower speeds, it responds cleanly without hesitation. Steering feels light enough to guide easily, yet stable enough to avoid any sense of looseness. That control becomes important in everyday riding, especially when roads are uneven or traffic slows unexpectedly. Out on open stretches, it holds its line with confidence, giving you a steady, predictable feel. The engine delivers its power in a way that feels strong but controlled. It pulls with purpose without becoming aggressive. That kind of torque makes passing and cruising effortless, while still keeping the ride smooth and manageable. It is not about chasing speed. It is about having strength available without strain. Over time, that balance becomes the reason it stands out. It offers power, comfort, and control without forcing trade-offs that wear you down. The Bonneville T120 uses a 1200 cubic centimeter high torque parallel twin, making 79 horsepower and 77.4 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 31.1 inches, wet weight lands around 514 pounds, and the chassis pairs cartridge front forks with twin rear shocks and standard ABS. A balanced approach works well, though the next machine leans harder into low-end torque and a lower stance. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Softail Standard. There is a different kind of satisfaction that comes from a machine that does not try to hide what it is. No extra layers, no unnecessary weight, just a direct connection between the rider and the road. That simplicity starts to matter more over time, especially when comfort and control begin to outweigh everything else. The low stance is the first thing that changes how it feels. Sitting closer to the ground makes stops easier and gives a stronger sense of balance at slow speeds. That confidence becomes important in real-world riding, where uneven surfaces and tight spaces are part of the experience. It does not feel like you are managing the bike. It feels like you are part of it. The riding position keeps your body relaxed without forcing you into an extreme posture. Your back stays supported, your arms remain at a natural reach, and your legs are not locked into place. Over longer distances, that balance reduces fatigue and allows you to stay focused on the ride instead of adjusting your position constantly. When the throttle opens, the character changes. The engine delivers strong, immediate torque that moves the bike forward without hesitation. It is not about high revving power. It is about low-end pull that feels effortless and controlled. That kind of response makes passing, merging, and cruising feel smooth and confident. The Softail Standard carries the Milwaukee 8 107, a 1746 cubic centimeter V-twin, making about 87 horsepower and 110 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 25.8 inches laden. Running weight is about 655 pounds, and it uses a telescopic fork with a hidden monoshock rear. That raw simplicity works well, though the next machine adds comfort without giving up that same sense of strength. If you're starting to see the pattern here, make sure you subscribe before the top picks reveal themselves. The difference between riding comfortably for years or cutting it short often comes down to choices like these, and we're just getting started. Number 4. Harley-Davidson Heritage Classic. Some machines stop trying to prove anything and start focusing on what actually matters. That shift shows up the moment you sit down and realize nothing feels forced. The posture is natural, the reach is easy, and the weight settles in a way that builds confidence before the engine even turns over. The riding position keeps your body supported without locking you into place. Your back stays upright, your arms stay relaxed, and your legs are not stretched beyond comfort. Over longer rides, that balance becomes the difference between pushing through fatigue and riding without thinking about it at all. It feels like a machine designed for distance, not just short rides. At slower speeds, it carries its weight low, making it easier to handle in tight spaces. Parking lots and uneven surfaces feel manageable instead of stressful. Once the road opens up, the added stability keeps it planted, allowing you to hold a steady line without constant correction. That consistency builds trust mile after mile. The engine delivers a strong, steady pull that feels familiar. It does not rush or spike. Instead, it moves with a deliberate kind of power that makes highway cruising feel effortless. That kind of torque is not about speed. It is about reducing the effort required to keep moving forward. The newer Heritage Classic runs the Milwaukee 8 117, a 1923 cubic centimeter V-twin, producing about 98 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 26.3 inches laden. Running weight is roughly 719 pounds, and it uses a telescopic fork with hidden rear monoshock suspension. From here, the focus shifts toward machines built specifically for extended highway miles and sustained comfort. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Street Glide. There is a clear shift that happens when the ride stops being about getting there and starts being about how you feel when you arrive. That is where a full touring machine begins to make sense. The extra weight, the larger frame, and the added features all come together for one purpose: reducing the effort it takes to stay on the road. The seating position supports your body in a way smaller bikes cannot. You are not holding yourself up. The seat carries your weight, the floorboards give your legs room to move, and the bars fall naturally into reach. Over time, that setup reduces fatigue in your back, shoulders, and hips. It turns long rides into something manageable, instead of something you have to push through. At highway speeds, the fairing makes the biggest difference. Wind pressure drops, and the strain on your upper body fades. You are no longer bracing against the air. Instead, you sit in a pocket of stability that lets you relax without losing control. That comfort builds mile after mile. The engine delivers steady, confident torque that feels effortless at speed. It does not need to be pushed hard. It simply carries you forward with a strong, consistent pull. Passing and merging happen without hesitation, and cruising becomes smooth and predictable. The current Street Glide uses a 1923 cubic centimeter Milwaukee 8 117, making about 107 horsepower and 129 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is about 28.1 inches laden. Running weight is around 811 pounds. And suspension uses dual bending valve forks with rear emulsion shocks. There is still another step beyond this, where stability becomes even more refined at higher speeds. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Road Glide. Wind becomes a different kind of enemy the longer you ride. It is not just pressure against your chest. It is the constant strain on your shoulders, your neck, and your grip. Over time, that effort wears you down faster than the miles themselves. That is where this machine changes the experience in a way you feel immediately. The frame-mounted fairing does more than block wind. It separates the movement of the bike from the movement of the air. That creates a steadier ride at highway speeds, where other machines start to feel unsettled. Instead of fighting the handlebars, you guide them. That small difference becomes a major advantage over long distances. The seating position builds on that stability. You sit low and supported, with your back upright and your arms relaxed. Floorboards allow you to shift your footing, which reduces stiffness in your legs over time. That flexibility becomes more important the longer you stay in the saddle. It is not about short rides, it is about staying comfortable deep into the day. Out on open roads, the weight begins to disappear once the bike is moving. It tracks straight, holds its line, and responds without hesitation. The engine delivers a strong, steady pull that keeps highway cruising effortless. There is no need to push it hard. It simply carries you forward with confidence. The Road Glide also uses the 1923 cubic centimeter Milwaukee 8 117. Rated at about 107 horsepower and 129 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is about 28.5 inches laden. Running weight is roughly 825 pounds. And the suspension matches Harley's touring fork and emulsion shock setup. Only one machine takes this level of comfort further, by removing even more physical strain from the ride itself. Number 1. Honda Goldwing. There comes a stage where riding stops being about endurance. It becomes about how long you can stay comfortable without thinking about your body at all. That is where everything changes, and very few machines are built with that idea as the foundation. This one is. The seating position feels less like sitting on a motorcycle and more like settling into it. Your back stays supported, your arms remain relaxed, and your legs sit in a natural position that does not tighten over time. Hours pass without the usual pressure building in your hips or shoulders. That alone shifts how far you are willing to go. The suspension works in a way that removes harshness from the road. Rough pavement, expansion joints, and uneven surfaces lose their impact. Instead of absorbing every imperfection, the bike smooths it out before it reaches you. That reduces fatigue in a way most riders only understand after experiencing it. At speed, the weight disappears into stability. It tracks straight, resists crosswinds, and holds its line without effort. The engine delivers power in a smooth, controlled manner that feels almost effortless. There is no need to push or manage it aggressively. It simply carries you forward with quiet confidence. Honda's Goldwing uses an 1833 cubic centimeter flat six, producing about 125 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. Seat height is 29.3 inches. Curb weight is about 806 pounds for the standard model, and suspension uses double wishbones up front with Pro-Link rear suspension. At the end of the day, the road doesn't get shorter. You just start choosing what makes the miles easier to carry. The right motorcycle doesn't limit you. It keeps you going year after year without wearing you down. That's the difference most riders feel, but don't always put into words. If this hit close to home, like the video, subscribe for more real rider breakdowns, and share your experience below. What bike made riding easier for you, and which one made it harder than it should have?